This is a Grit Talk, and my name is Bret Snyder. Good morning. Delighted to be here with you. Thanks for coming out. You know, it's early, and you all showed up, and that means you care, and you're interested, and you're willing to get up early and get there. So that's nice, and that's a good thing. You know, when I was preparing for this, I thought about how structured, how formal should I be, and I realized it didn't really need. The spirit of this is not to really have a really thought out bullet by bullet plan. So I'm going to answer these questions, these 7 questions, just from the heart and really where I am. And I think where I am is very much in the middle of my journey. So I don't have it all figured out. I don't made a lot of mistakes. A lot of cases in my life, I think it's try, fail, try, maybe realize you're working on the wrong thing, make a change. So if I have any advice, I think it's really going to be more lessons that I have picked up in my life, but it's still very much an unfinished journey. So hopefully that's helpful. If not, at least you know you're not alone. We're also in the same place of trying to figure things out. So with that, let me start with the first question, which is, what have you not done yet that you would like to be part of your story or included in your eulogy? And I think I'm a third generation in the sense of the Gore has a family overall direction and ownership and so forth. I'm third generation. So coming into the family business as a third generation means there's a lot that's already been there and been done and created and it's successful. But nonetheless, it always needs to adapt. Any organization needs to adapt to our future, which you know is changing. There's so many changes. Think about a year ago, how much the world's changed. Think about a few years ago, AI, for example. Think about even a few years before that with the pandemic. So what I have not yet done, I think that's so important, is really taken Gore and my leadership there, which I've been in 5 years in the role, and taking that into the next step. We are in a wonderful transformation, but we're doing new things. We're sort of breaking glass too on some things that we wouldn't have done in the past. Diversifying, for instance, all the materials and our market ends and how we do things at Gore in really exciting ways. And it's a great team, but we're far from finished. So before, I think about handing this off to the next generation or whoever succeeds me, there's a long ways to go still. And that's exciting to me because nothing gets me more thrilled than having a vision and helping get a team together to sharpen that vision and take it forward. That's the most satisfying thing. Now, I was thrown a little bit by the eulogy part because I'm like, ooh, okay, think hard about that. And I will, some of you know, if you know, that my father died quite young. In fact, he died a little younger than I am today. So it does remind me just how short time is. But I guess to pick what I would choose for in my eulogy, what I hope people would say is he was a convener. He brought people together to work on common projects that had a benefit to those outside of the team working on it. And if I can do that, and that's what somebody says about me, I'd be very, very satisfied with that. Okay, second question. This is the failure question. How has failure or apparent failure set you up for later success? And do you have a favorite failure? All right, I'm going to go into one of the harder times of my life was not what you might guess. It was college. I know a lot of people had a wonderful experience in college, and sometimes people say, that was the best days of my life. It wasn't that way for me. It was a challenge for me. I was maybe not as prepared as I thought I could be or should be. I was used to getting good grades, got into engineering. I was at Brown University. And a lot of people were better prepared, and I didn't realize how you had to work through really challenging problems. Usually I could figure out an answer pretty quickly. I couldn't do that once we got into the real engineering work. So it was a challenge for me. And I struggled. And my self-esteem took a dive for sure in there. And, sometimes I felt a little isolated. But, maybe people think about college too, just because everybody sometimes, the past starts to get a golden glow. But I do think there's another reason too, which this is when you were younger, you had amazing amount of energy, right? So I think that's one reason people look back on it. But anyway, for me, I think I had the energy, but I didn't have the sense that I was succeeding. Later on, in the last 2 years, I figured out how to study better, how to break down problems, and really, like in engineering, you really got to understand certain fundamental things first at a simple level, and then you can build on that to get to solutions. So I did better and felt like I made a success of a hard situation in my junior and senior year. But that was certainly a really important failure for me. Another, I think, apparent failure, or maybe it's more like a setback, was when I came to Gore. So I didn't come right out of school. I went in, got my engineering degree. Not only did I get it, I ended up deciding I really wanted to prove I got it. So I went to grad school and got a graduate degree in chemical engineering. I didn't come to Gore. I didn't want to work in the family business. I wanted to be my own person. I didn't want to be scrutinized or have expectations. And honestly, I wanted some flexibility. And I felt like if I joined the family business, it'd be really hard to leave. Like it now is tied up with a lot of other things. So I went to work at Roman Haas Company, great company in Philadelphia, and now since acquired in different parts of it, mostly in Dow. And I went there and I did a bunch of things, and I kind of got promoted. I did get promoted a number of times and was leading a small team. And then I came over to Gore. So my dad died, actually, and that caused me to rethink where I really wanted to be. And I love being in organizations. I love working with people and having a structure around to work with. So I knew I was an organization person. But then I thought, well, if I'm going to be doing that, I should be doing it where it connects in with the family and it's more meaningful. So I said, forget about the never leave. That's probably a mistake. And even when I left Roman Haas, by the way, I thought it was going to be really hard. It wasn't that hard. Like it's a free country. You can say, hey, this is not working out for me. I'm going to go on to something else. And you just drive out of the parking lot. And they even had a going away party for me, and I was so shocked. So, but anyway, when I came to Gore, I went into the front lines. So, and this is family philosophy, really. Like you don't start in the top or even in the middle. You start in the front line. So I was making materials in the production floor, testing them myself in the lab, many hours of doing that. I wasn't leading anybody. And this went on for a long time, like 4 years. And where I think it was really good because I understood at a ground level how Gore operates. I got to know the people really well, and culture is such an important thing at Gore. You really get immersed in the culture, and people, they never can quite treat you the same, but as I sit there shoulder to shoulder working with things, including doing things like breaking equipment, I think I got a good feeling for how Gore operates and the sense of teamwork and the things that make Gore, the culture, special. Innovation as well. I worked on all kinds of innovative projects. By the way, most of those did not end up coming into a real product. So I learned also very firsthand in a long history in R&D just how difficult it is to get something from an idea into development into actually a real product that customers buy. But maybe my mistake there is I did that for a while. It was 4 years. And I started to wonder, was this really like a good career move for me? And was it a setback? But I think I learned a lot in that. So that would be the second failure that I would say. Really helped me, though. Later, it accelerated my ability to help figure out what we really needed to do and help sell that and get that inculcated in the organization. All right, we're on question 3 now. Over the last 5 years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has most improved my life? It's a hard question. I wonder what your answers would be. I came up with exercise. I've always, and triathlon specifically, has been the last couple years a focus. I always exercise some, and It's a little bit of a family trait, I guess. But I wasn't really purposeful or dedicated about it. And honestly, I was extremely busy leading a large company. As everybody knows, you got so many demands on your time. There's travel, there's early meetings, late meetings. But it's also very stressful. And exercise is a great stress reducer, especially slow, long endurance exercise, for me at least, has been a really increased it's really the mental benefits that have been the biggest. And I think there's something more to it. It's something I can control. And it's something you can build on a plan. But a lot of times there's a lot of things that happen that you got to do, especially as you lead. You got to work through other people, and you don't control other people, right? Not at all. You can control only what you do. You can use that to try to influence others. But exercise, you just put one foot in front of the other, or one pedal in front of the next, or one stroke. You can control how intense you go, how long you go, where you go, and it gets you outside. So I would say, for me, that's been a game changer. And by the way, having like a race or an event, you get objectively measured. And so that satisfied my competitive urge to know where I am relative to others, but also whether I'm improving and where I am, where am I really? So you get kind of objective about it, because you also get very objective feedback, right? You get numbers. This is how long it took each of the segments. Here's where you were in the group. And you can benchmark yourself there. So I think that was also part of the appeal. So it's been a good thing for me. And it also helps you, just like college, where I had to learn to break things down, big problems, big goals, envision, into steps. Same thing you have to do to do a triathlon. Now, I haven't done an Ironman, so don't be getting the wrong impression. I am planning. I've done 2 Olympics last year. I'm going to do a half Ironman, or a 70.3 this summer. But even that's enough. And by the way, the time commitment just keeps going up with the length, and I can't. There's a balance point where I think I'm getting diminishing returns. So, okay, you ask, what activities make you lose track of time? I bet you all have an answer for this one. Mine is deep thought. It's really through reading. A lot of times I'll read something, I'll make notes on it, I'll rewrite the notes, I'll go back to reading, and I just try to organize things like that. And that is pretty intellectual, I guess. It sounds like it is, but honestly, it's just helping me get that deep reflection that's hard in my day-to-day. There's a lot of task switching in a typical day for me. If I gave you what I was doing today, it's a whole bunch of different things. And they're all different contexts, different people, different stages of development. So just the chance to have some deep reflective time and get into something like reading or writing and working a problem is really relaxing, actually, for me. What book do you most often give or recommend, and how has that book influenced you? Wow, all the stakes are a little higher, and I just said I'm a reader. What is it going to be? And I had a number of runners up here, but I ended up thinking that you would like to hear maybe a pretty practical book, and one that really has influenced me, and Gore, by the way. And that is, it's called Influence is Your Superpower. And it's by Zoe Chance. She's a professor in the School of Management at Yale. And it's really all about influence. How do you influence others? And what influences you? And it's based on a lot of research, I'm sure. I can tell, I know. It's footnoted in there. But she makes it really practical and fun. And Gore has a culture, too, where it's not a highly authoritarian structure. So influence is really important. But influence is important with your kids, with your spouse, with your friends, right, with your community. So it really is a general purpose tool. But what'd she say about it? What's so impactful? If I had to take one thing from the book, I would say it's this thing called the magic question. And this was a real game changer for me. And actually, we had her come into Gore and spend time with our leadership team. And she talked about a number of things on influence. She did a wonderful job. Highly recommend her. And she talked about the magic question. And after this meeting, everybody was talking about it and using it. And in one question, it really reframes the cultural shift that I'm helping and trying to help along at Gore. And here's the magic question. What would it take? So you get into a hotel room, just imagine this situation. You get to a hotel room, to your hotel late, and they say they don't have any rooms, but you had a reservation. sorry, sir, ma'am, but we can't help you. So you can try it. What would it take to get a room here tonight? But what you're doing when you ask that question is you're reframing. So instead of excuses or blaming, and instead of using authority on somebody or ignoring the constraints they may feel, you're inviting them in to solve the problem with you. So you're not settling, you're aiming for high standards, and you need somebody else's help, and you're inviting them in to sit with you and help solve the problem together. It's a powerful question. Okay, question 6. What have you purchased or been given in the last year, valued under $200, that has most positively impacted your life? I thought about this, and you're going to be a little bit surprised, I think, by this. It's a subscription to ChatGPT. And it's a personal subscription, not a work one. But you know why? It's just a great assistant. Used it to help plan vacations. Talked about those triathlons. It's a great trainer. Like, I want to do this triathlon. Here's my health. You can load your labs, your health history, whatever you want in there, and you say, give me a plan. What should I do this week? What heart rate should I be at? How long? Blah, blah, blah. Then you say, oh, my knee's hurting. Like, I can't walk that well. What should I do? Oh, well, do this. They'll give you exercise. It's not perfect, I'm sure, and it's not as good as a real trainer, I'm sure, but it's amazingly good, and it's 24/7. So you can just, when you have time, it's quite helpful. And you know what else I like about this? I don't want my kids to steal one on me. So, the okay boomer, right? I don't want to like, oh, okay, Dad, you don't know. No, actually, I do know, because I'm using AI tools as well. So it's powerful. All right, number 7. If you could broadcast a message to everyone in the world, knowing it would be received and remembered, what would it be? I think here's what I would say is, I would say, don't spend too long complaining, but act. So I set a New Year's resolution this year to not complain, and I failed at it. It's not been successful so far, but I'm getting more conscious of when I'm talking about things that I'm not doing anything about. So think about it, right? Let me go back, hold on a second. Think about, okay, I asked ChatGPT, what book from over 2,000 years ago, it's not the Bible, not religious, is the most voluntarily read book today? So it's probably a Western perspective here. Maybe it'd be different in China. But what book is, do people, when I say voluntarily, I mean people actually pick it up off the shelf. It's not assigned in a classroom. So what book do you think it is? And they said, look, there's one book way far above the others. Have any guesses? It's Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. So it's he's writing a journal to himself, right? He's emperor of the Roman emperor in like 160. So it's not quite 2,000 years, okay, but he's a little after in the Common Era. But he's writing a journal to himself. Didn't mean it for it to be published, but thoughts and reflections about things. But he's a Stoic, and what he's focused on is what do you control, and then you need to give up the idea that you can control things you can't. And when you're complaining, you're either fighting against reality because it's something you can't control. I found myself this week, what was I complaining about? The weather. I can't run on the sidewalks because it's covered with snow. Snow that actually turned to like ice, right? So I violated my New Year's resolution. But, there's no really point in complaining because either you can act or you can't. And if you can't, you should accept it. And if you can, do something about it. So I would just close by saying, when you find yourself waiting around instead of acting, waiting for somebody else to do something, or doing a lot more talking than acting, time to take some action. And one reason you get paralyzed is sometimes you feel like you got to know the future better. The truth is, you just have to be able to adapt to the future. I couldn't have foreseen all the things that happened in the last 5 years. And coming as a scientist, engineer type background, at first this was a hard change. This was a change for me as a leader because I wanted certainty. There's usually, in engineering, there's a right answer. You have 2 cylinders, one has gas, one's empty, there's a valve between them, you open the valve and the gas now spreads between 2 cylinders. This was a real problem I struggled with. What's the temperature and pressure of the gas after you do that? Okay, there is a right answer, and you can also do that experiment and see what happens. But in leadership, you have to guess where things are going to go. But you don't need to be paralyzed about that. You want your best guess, but honestly, you just need to know that you're going to be able to adapt. And if you start going in the wrong direction, you can usually change and make a pivot. So the real thing, and this is what my grandparents had said to me many times, and my lovely mother's here in the audience, and she was told this and actually experienced it firsthand, which was my grandfather said, jump in and see if you could swim. They had their home-built pool down where the business started on Paper Mill Road, and Mom was pretend swimming for a while, so if you don't mind me telling the story, which means she was swimming in the shallow end but touching on the bottom a little bit with her foot every so often. And grandfather, her father, said, hey, Betty, come on over here for a minute. And she climbed out of the pool, and he picked her up, and he threw her in the deep end. Turned out she could swim to the side. So helped her really learn she could swim and give the confidence. And of course, he would have been able to jump in the pool if she couldn't swim. But he thought she could do it, and she could. So that's like a great motto, is jump in and see if you can swim. Because when you jump in, it initiates action. And that's what you need in an organization. So I would say, the biggest thing, I would say, broadcast message is, don't complain, act. So thank you for your time and attention. I'm going to close out this talk and open it up for questions. This was the Great Talk.